All right, with that, it's 7:01. I'm going to officially start the meeting. So thanks everyone for attending the Rockland Finance Committee meeting June 3rd at 7 p.m. Copy of this meeting will be made available by WRPS. I believe that Chris or somebody was on from WRPS. I appreciate you guys doing what you're doing. Are we recording? Can WRPS confirm that?
We are recording.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. And the second piece is that meeting minutes will be made available and posted online and at the clerk's office at Town Hall. So with that, our agenda for today, very quickly, we're going to do some budget reviews. We'll hear from the town accountant, town administrator. If there's any new details on the plan to remedy FY20 and FY21 shortfalls, any updates to the conversation that we were talking about, and any necessary voting that will be requested by the town and FinCom to discuss and entertain a vote in preparation for town meeting. So that really is relative to the warrant. If there's anything else that we need to review, then again, the town administrator, the town accountant will review that. I'm not aware of any new transfer requests. Biz, is there any new transfer requests that are being requested
John,
today?
do we have a quorum?
We do, Julie, yeah. We have, I count us, we're actually down to 10. As many of you saw, Ken Tachi retired. We wish him well. We hope he recovers from his illness, but he has expressed that he can't attend. But we basically are down to 10 on the team, including myself, and we have, I believe, is it 8 on the call today? So I got Bobby, Joe, Bill Stewart, Julie, Jeff, Craig, Bill Principe, and Dan Ryan. Absent are Sheila and Laurie. Okay. Thanks, Julie. So Biz, just getting back to that on the transfer request, there's no other transfer requests that are being presented tonight?
No, there are no transfer requests. The only thing that we'll do going forward will be any transfers we have to do for year end. Other than that, we shouldn't have anything going forward.
And your transfers for year end will be covered in the town meeting, right?
Most of them will be covered in town meeting, all the things that we have addressed on the shortages. But there can always be something that sneaks up on you.
Right.
So if there is, by law, between May 15th and July 15th, we can do year-end transfers. So if I have to do the year-end transfers, I will certainly let you know.
We had put down July 15th tentatively as our next meeting. Do you feel like that's the right date, or should we be looking to meet before that? Or
I would, well, it all depends on what people's vacation schedules may be around that time.
I'm going to be away.
But I'd like to see it before the 15th.
okay, you want to
So
do
that
it the
if
8th?
Okay. Doug, when's the Board of Selectmen's meeting? Oh, you guys are on Wednesday.
The Board of Selectmen, yeah, the Board of Selectmen is going to meet the day before on Tuesday the 7th, so it might make sense the next day.
Yep, that will work. And if we don't have to have it, you have to have a monthly meeting anyway, correct?
We're technically required to have a monthly meeting.
Okay. Okay.
So, but we can go on and kind of check the box on that one if we have to.
Okay.
Wouldn't be the first time, but July 8th would be the tentative next meeting. I know we're kind of taking that out of where we normally handle that at the end, but just figured I'd cover that while we're here. Okay, so with that, Doug, I believe Doug or Viz, do you guys want to take anything before we get into kind of rolling through the warrant and make sure that there's no questions?
No, I did my main point tonight was really just the warrant, unless you guys has anything.
Do we want to discuss the additional article as we?
Yeah, when we get to the warrant, I was going to.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Oh, we're good.
All right, so with that, I am going to share my screen. Host disabled screen sharing. All right. WRPS, can you guys
hang on one
release?
second, I'll fix that for you right now.
And while you're doing that, John, I just want to say that since the document that I sent you, which you've distributed, that you're going to share tonight, we've cleaned up a lot of typos and cleaned up a lot of things. So we can certainly talk about some of those if you want, but I just want to let you know if the words don't match the numbers, that's all been corrected, that type of thing. But we can, I didn't want to start sending you multiple versions of the document. But I just want to let you know that we have.
Give it a try now, John.
All right. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
Good. All right. So we've got our standard like explanation here in the beginning of the warrant. Here's Lori.
Hi. I
are
couldn't get
you?
on. My computer was old, so I'm on my phone.
All right, perfect. Thank you. All right, so Lori, we're reviewing the warrant right now. We're just rolling through it. If there's anybody who can't see my screen, please speak up. But I'm just going to kind of fire through it a little bit. I'm going to give us a little bit of.
Oh,
Well, that was better.
Everybody read that a little bit better, I think, right?
Yeah, that's better.
yes.
Yep. Okay. So we've got list of articles for the special town meeting. And again, Biz, is there any changes to this list of articles that we haven't voted on or looked at before?
No, everything remains the same.
Okay. Any questions on the list of articles for the special town meeting? Okay. All right. I know the community center maintenance, that was stuff that had to be done. Is that correct?
Yes, what we're doing is we're closing out old articles, and this will allow the community center to continue with maintenance that's necessary at the building.
Hmm.
Rolling into, again, this is Article 1. This gets into the detail is what you're doing here, right?
Correct.
I didn't print this out. Normally I like to thumb through it like that. So this is the detail. Article 1, Article 2, 50,000 for Beach Street Recycling Road. Article 3. Harrington Water, this is rescind. This is rescinding these articles. These are articles that had money left over in them. Total of 200,000.
Doug, do you want to speak to the correction on that article?
Which article is this? Article 3?
Yes,
Article 3.
Is
It's
this the
the
one,
one-
Biz, where we said, I think this is just going to say Rockland, not
Correct,
Abington, correct?
correct, yes.
I mean, I didn't think we really needed to go into every little like wordsmith thing because there's like
Okay,
just a ton of little things that we're just cleaning up. I mean,
okay,
I would just really focus on like the numbers and just the articles myself.
okay.
Okay. All right, so we'll roll through that. Again, if you have your article in front of you, or if you have your previous discussions that we've had in front of you, we can all kind of confirm that there's any issues with numbers, et cetera. Article 4 is the 50,000 for the treatment plant filter upgrades. Article 5 is 25,000 for a survey and testing in accordance with Commonwealth drinking water. Article 6, 10,000 for annual leak detection. Article 7 is 30,000 on a lease for a backhoe front end loader, third payment. Article 8 is 45,000 for water meters. Article 9 is 40,000 for IT servers. Article 10 is 23,000 and change, 313 for a variety of items. And this is to rescind. Okay. And that is, but it's a net positive of 23,000. So it looks like you're doing some ins and outs on this, right? Correct? Am I right in this, Biz?
Correct, we're closing out old articles that go back a number of years and no longer used. So we're going to close them, we're going to put the money back into their retained earnings or free cash for the water fund.
Okay. So the net is that we're rescinding several articles that'll net us, 23,313 transfer back into the water department.
Correct.
Article 11 is 73,000 coming back into the McKinley building. Again, this is from either leftover money or, you know, obviously maintenance or things that were in articles that were already handled in other ways.
Correct.
All right, and that is the special town meeting. Hopefully we can cover that this quickly when we get to town meeting.
Okay.
All right, any questions on the special town meeting? Am I going too fast for anybody? All right. So Town of Rockland Warrant Annual Town Meeting. Okay, we've got the list of articles here, and of course we'll have the budget in here as well, to raise and appropriate. Okay, again, I'll scroll through these and make them fairly quick. Looks like there's a number of seats available or things up for election. People should be aware of that. 2 seats on the school committee. You got the treasurer, housing authority, town collector, town clerk.
When you walk in front of my phone, they can see you in a town, like the whole finance.
Article 2 is
Someone else is showing. It's my shoulders.
what so we get salary and compensation. That's like just a standard article we have. We fix salary and salary costs. Stabilization fund. Article 3 is to take 500,000 out of the stabilization fund and move it to the general fund. And that's to fund the FY21 budget.
Correct.
Is that accurate? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So again, 500,000 is coming from stabilization into the FY21. Article 4 is to use 130,000 in free cash for the purpose of funding the FY21 budgets. Article 5, we transfer to general fund 124,000 from the Rockland Water Department to fund indirect costs, 121,777. Article 6 is 44,000 from the Rockland Sewer Department to fund indirect costs in the general fund fiscal 21. Article 7 is 200,000 from overlay surplus to fund the FY21 general fund budgets. Okay. Article 8 is 20,000 transfer the general fund from the dog fund balance to help FY21 budgets. Article 9, $250,000.
And this is coming from the OPEB trust fund. This is one of the corrections we've made. So add in the language that it's coming from the OPEB trust fund.
Okay, so Article 9 is going to come from OPEB trust, 250,000, offset the cost of retiree health insurance. Article 10 is the general operating budget, which we reviewed, made adjustments to, and re-voted last week. 65,358,003. General fund, water department operating budget 3452916. Sewer department operating budget 2662749. And this is from raise and appropriate. Any questions? Okay. For information purposes only, we've got the budgets available, the levy, a Prop 2.5 increase, adjustments. I mean, everything's laid out in terms of where the money's coming from and how we're funding the budget. This is all information we've seen before. Any questions? Okay. Bill, any questions? Get your glasses on, Bill. You're looking for,
No.
you good?
Yeah, good.
And again, John, just to be clear, that last page you were on, it says for informational purposes only, because that's not something people vote on, but we decided it's helpful so voters can see the big picture, but they obviously don't vote on revenues.
Right. Yes, it details where the revenue's coming from, and it details the operating budget. All right, and then we start going into the FY21 general fund budget, which goes through department by department. All of the, this is again the budget that we voted on last week. I encourage everybody to take a look at it. If you're not seeing anything right now, I understand. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at it since I sent it out, I understand. But if you do see something that looks off what we previously distributed and voted on, then please forward that, communicate that to the town hall, to the town administrator. Make sure you copy me on it so I'm aware that, that this change is coming along. I personally reviewed some of these things, and I can't say I went line item by line item, but I didn't see any errors from what we had before. Treasurer, tax collector budget. Any questions on the FY21 budget?
Did you email this out, John?
Yes, this was sent out.
All right, I was looking for the email and I couldn't find it.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't find mine either.
Could you send it again? When you have a minute?
This was the,
I can't even, my computer's a little screwed up.
yeah, I just clicked off here. I sent it on Friday, 5/29, draft town meeting warrant.
I'm having a hard time. I opened that this morning, but now I can't open it.
I
Can't
can't
open
even,
it? Oh, yeah.
I can't even see mine.
All right, I will send it out again.
You said 5/29, huh?
Yeah, it's been resent. Yeah, it was sent 5/29 at 5:50 p.m. And it did go to the whole group. Let me get back to where I was.
You got a lot of tabs open there. Holy cow.
Hey, anytime you want to come and run my business, just let me know.
Oh, yeah. See them all up the top.
Crazy. How do I get rid of the controls?
Yeah, I lost that email, John. I don't know where it went. I don't have it.
Are you just trying to
I
get
don't know.
back to your screen? There you go.
There I am.
Joe,
All
Joe, I
right.
just forwarded it to your work email.
My work email. Oh. No wonder I don't see it.
Okay. So we're continuing to roll through our budget here, at record-breaking pace. This is exactly how it's going to go when we get to the town meeting, so we all know. All right. One thing I did notice, and I know we talked about it, but I'm trying to figure out, Biz, the increase in the utilities budget. Thought we made some inroads into improving the distribution of revenue, but yet our utilities went up. Is that just because?
There's an aspect of the utilities that hadn't been budgeted in the past.
Oh.
So you were chronically running in a deficit. So we had to do an adjustment for that. Also, the town administrator and I worked very diligently to do a distribution on the solar credits.
Yeah,
But we can't guarantee what the credits are going to be this coming year, so we needed to budget for what we felt was accurate.
okay. So closing out FY20,
Mhm.
we were running at a deficit in this budget line item.
Correct, but we feel as though we've adjusted that, so there should not be any adjustments going forward from May to the end of June. But we may have to do a small transfer, but we think we have it covered.
Okay. All right, building inspector budget, gas inspector, plumbing inspector. Measures
Mhm,
is the police budget.
mhm.
fire budget.
Mhm.
uh,
John, the only thing that changed on this aspect of the budgets is down the bottom, you should see where it has the overlay, which is included in the gross budget value, and that will be on the last page of the budget.
Right. Just giving everybody an opportunity to kind of.
Yeah.
Tree department,
Mhm.
highway.
Mhm.
Okay. Waste disposal.
Mhm.
You still with us, Bob?
Yeah.
That's good.
I'm here.
All right. I know that this is extremely boring for you. Council on Aging. Here we go. This is Veterans Agent. Historical celebrations. Interest on short-term debt.
Mhm.
The overlay part is down the bottom, retirement, employment, group insurance. Group insurance did go up quite a bit. Is
Correct.
that like a locked-in number now at this point, or?
Yeah, we should not see any other increases unless we have a substantial increase in employees, because we did put in a buffer for attrition. So when somebody retires, we hire somebody new. They're going to go into our retirement plan, but we're going to have to offer insurance to the new employee. So that's included in this as well.
And what is this private insured? Again,
Oh,
it's something I think we reviewed, but I
yeah,
remember.
what that is, it's called an opt-out program. So if like myself, I came on to the town of Rockland, and if I don't take the town's insurance, which is over 20,000, at the last month of the year, so in June, you would get a $2,500 stipend to not take the insurances. And this is contractual in the union contracts as well as the personal contracts.
We save
But-
money when they do that.
Oh, yeah. So for instance, a family plan runs roughly 20,000. So if I was going to do the town's insurance, you'd be paying 20,000 for me. But I've opted into my husband's insurance. So by paying out 2,500, what'd you save? 17,500. So it's
That's not uncommon.
yeah, it's not uncommon. It's standard.
Standard for unions.
Correct.
Not even unions, because I did it before I retired.
Correct.
All right, so down the bottom here, you get your total expenditures,
Mhm.
and then you've got overlay. So you were going to explain the overlay part of it?
The overlay, if you look at the budget summary, is part of our expenses, and an overlay is the abatement portion. So we have to account for a certain percentage of our taxation that may be reduced by people filing for an abatement and exemption, and that's called an overlay. But it is part of the expense aspect. So I have it in the expense column because, you know, it's an expense. But if I didn't put it in here and somebody was looking at the total expenditures, they'd only see the 64,781,000, when the summary page shows 65,358. You know, the
Okay.
other option that we could do is take it and reduce our net taxation by that amount, but we have it set up for expenditure. So that's pretty much what it is. It's not something that's flexible. It's something that's based on percentages from the DOR.
Yep, okay.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
Mm-mm.
The overlay for me.
Yes, the overlay, Bob. Yeah, the overlay in here is 577,
Mhm.
but that's to balance the budget against what was forecasted in revenue. If I'm saying that right.
Yeah, well, we have to have a balance, but this is a requirement. It's an expense that the town may have to pay up to the potential of 577,000 for abatements. People, you know, you can file for an abatement if you feel you're overtaxed. Your taxation level changes, things like that. So that's what that is for.
Do we typically realize that
Oh, yeah.
much?
Yes,
Okay.
we do. Yep. And what happens if we don't use it all? This is where your overlay surplus will come into play. So in the last few years, you haven't used all the overlay. So an accumulation of that can be used for budgeting purposes is being turned back into the general fund. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay,
So we put it in according to statute, but
correct.
we generally don't spend it all, and we can take it back out and respend it on something else later.
Correct. And usually it's 3, 4, 5 years later from the original budget, because you have to make sure that all your appellate tax board cases have been resolved and you have nothing outstanding.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Did I hear something a minute ago? Were we hiring an electrician or something? What was that?
No, we are not hiring an electrician.
Nope.
I thought I heard something.
That was a different call.
Mhm. And this is pretty standard.
What's so the question from Bobby, and perhaps this is for Doug, is whether or not there's a hiring freeze or a kind of attrition type of strategy to, keep headcount in check while we're going through what we're doing.
That's Doug.
We're looking at the water budget. Were you talking about the general government budget, John?
Yeah, Bobby was talking about in general across.
Like a hiring freeze? Is that what?
Is there a hiring freeze? I feel like there is and there isn't. Like I feel like there's still some positions that we have to fill or will need to fill, but.
Yep. So in the budget, there's two things going on. There's we're not filling a previously funded firefighter position. So it was funded, but because the civil service hadn't been filled yet, so we're taking that money out. We're essentially delaying hiring of new officers going into the academy. So they will be coming. We're just kind of pushing that off a bit. We're taking a full-time junior clerk in the tax collector's office and making that full-time position down to part-time. So that's going down. The only new thing that we're adding, we're also not hiring all of our summer park staff. The only new thing that we're going to hire, the only new position that we're going to hire is something, in my opinion, as well as all the other regulatory boards, something that is critical is we're going to be replacing a person who's currently essentially volunteering her time for the zoning board. We're going to be hiring a part-time person to help provide administrative support for all the regulatory boards. That's going to be a part-time position. I think we had it funded originally at $20,000, and I think we actually cut it back because we figured we could delay hiring till halfway through the year, so it's only $10,000. But other than that, there's no, all these new inroads we wanted to make with, different types of departments. We're not doing any of that. So it's a bit of a long answer. So it's there's one position that we're going to be hiring, and then we're cutting back on a lot of others. So it's about as bare bones as we could make it. And obviously, if we get really bad news later when the state budget comes out in August, that's a lot worse than we projected, and we have to make deeper cuts, then, all bets are off. But, we tried to balance this budget with no layoffs of personnel.
Any other questions around that topic or anything to do with the budget?
Right now, the town hall is closed. Are people working remotely, or most of them furloughed, or?
So I can explain. So there's some people are furloughed, some partially, some completely. Many staff are physically working in the building, but not all. So some are working remotely, some are coming into the building, but the building is closed to the public. So slowly over time, we have a reopening committee. Just earlier today, we were installing plexiglass shields in appropriate places. So over time, we're going to be ramping up with more people, furloughs ending, more people coming back working in the buildings, and then, probably appointment only for the public, and then ultimately it'll be fully open. But so we're in a bit of a hybrid. We got combinations of furloughs, some people in the building, some people working remotely. For example, I'm at home right now. So it's been a complicated couple of months.
Some people are at bowling alleys. Crazy. All
Um,
right, we have sewer expenditures. Okay, now we're on to Article 11.
Mhm.
Authorized revolving funds. I know we made some adjustments, Biz, to these revolving funds with the
Yeah.
last go around. Are the revolving funds running appropriately the way they should be?
Yes, they are. And with the revolving funds, they can be pretty hard to
Reconcile.
guesstimate what it is, because right now we have the police insurance proceeds at 150,000. That's the level allowed by law right now. And if we have an insurance proceed claims in the cost of 150,000, then we had some major damage. So that's what some of these revolving funds for. Conservation Commission, application fees, consulting fees, student transportation. So these are normal, these are accurate, and I did make some adjustments up and some down, because some are definitely overstated, some are understated.
Now, if you made adjustments up,
Mhm.
and we dealt with this with the Council on Aging,
Mhm.
according to our town charter, I believe that those adjustments are supposed to go through the Board of Selectmen and through the Finance Committee for approval to change their revolving fund amount. We ran into it with the Council on Aging, and the problem we ran into her with when we talked to her last year is that she was collectively she was spending more money in a revolving account than her limit. Like, she thought her limit was, as long as I don't have this much in it or whatever it was, and it's supposed to be a cumulative number, from what I understand, of what you spend. So she spends $5,000 a month that comes in and out of her account, even though she collectively doesn't have $50,000 in her account. At the course of the year, she's used her revolving account for $60,000, and that's above her spending limit.
Right.
So that's the way it was explained to me, and that's what we were forced to do to make an adjustment in hers. So I don't know if just
That
putting it
is
on the
why you
warrant covers.
adjust. You
Yeah,
do have to adjust yearly based on what's been going on. And what typically happens on a revolving fund is that at the end of the fiscal year, unless otherwise noted, the revolving funds will close out to the general fund, depending what law they're under. So that's why you want to make sure you have enough money in there, that they can keep their money there, so we don't have to deal with it.
Okay.
We don't take it back. So there's certain rules you have to have there.
okay. So you've got that under control, and it sounds, because
Yes.
the Board of Selectmen voted for the warrant, which included the changes, whatever changes you've made to the revolving account, and we voted on it, it technically kind of covers the letter of the law.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, so
And
we're
as
good.
long as we renew them each year, I mean, the laws have changed somewhat due to the Municipal Modernization Act, but as long as you continue to renew them, you're fine.
Yeah, we do.
Right. Okay. All right, Article 12. So this says we're going to be transferring 75,000 to the town stabilization fund.
Correct. We
We
know
are
we're
gonna-
we're taking money out, but we're also putting money back in
Okay.
stabilization and the OPEB.
So that's just more.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know it seems kind of funny and a little counterintuitive, but I think part of it is because, when we meet with Standard & Poor's or whatever rating agency is going to be, reviewing our financials for our next bonding, say for the school building project, to give us our credit rating, it just simply looks better to show that you're putting money in, even if you're also taking it out. Just the fact of putting it in, we're told, helps our credit rating. So that's why we structured it this way.
All right. Makes sense. I mean, it doesn't make sense, but it makes sense. All right. So 49,000 going for a pumper for a last payment on that for the fire department, 85,000 for a mini pumper.
Mhm.
And this is the new pumper that we talked about last week. That was 250 to purchase. It's 85 on a 3-year
Correct.
to finance. So a better, in this case, it's a better use of what we need to do. Article 16 is 200. Wait a minute. 22,370. I wish these were like typed out, the actual
So,
number.
and
Like
we
this is,
have, in our corrected
okay,
version, the numbers are in there too. And while this says mini fire pumper, that was a typo. This is for a fire department administrative vehicle. That's why it's only
okay.
22.
So this is the administrative vehicle,
Right.
and it's $22,371.69. There you go. Okay. 32,000 for technology equipment upgrades. Article 18, 67,000 for park department for a John Deere 12 commercial mower. 48,000 for it says
Yeah,
two
that's-
police cruisers, but it's really
It's
one.
two.
One.
One.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so there's another 100,000 is going to the school department. I didn't get a chance to send over anything on this, but this is basically entering into a 4-year lease for Chromebook, but they got those paid for by some of the COVID-19 funding, unless the ones they're getting through COVID-19 are additional.
No Chromebooks have been funded at all through COVID. What has to happen is we have to pay for them, and then we'll be reimbursed. But this article will stay in place in case we do not get the additional money that we're looking for, because you're looking for 400,000, and this will help with any other technology issues they may have, because with who knows what's going to happen in the fall, the school department may need additional technology. So we're going to clean up this language a little bit as well.
Okay.
Is this the
Okay.
100, is this 100 above the 100 we give every year?
No, this is the 100 we give every year.
All right, you just got added the
We're
4-year
just
lease,
going to
right?
change the language a little bit on that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, well, the only thing is if we change the
Mhm.
language
Mhm.
substantially, my only suggestion is that we would run it by council prior to town meeting, and if you need a vote from FinCom, that we would get that on the books.
We
If-
meet
if
with
the-
council tomorrow, so we'll have that addressed. The only thing that the school department has asked is to enter into a 4-year lease or purchase. So if we don't have to lease them, we can purchase them outright for a better value. If we purchase, we can get some of the money back through COVID. So we're going to do 4-year lease or purchase. Okay, that's the only
Yeah.
change here.
Okay, well, again, if there's something we need to vote, we can take it up before town meeting.
Of course.
All right, Article 21 is 7,700 for a 5-year lease,
Mhm.
a 2016 15-passenger multifunction school activity bus. And then 11,000 for
Hey, John,
50 year
can
of a
I
5-year lease.
interrupt you? John, sorry, I'm sorry, to interrupt. I think this might be a good time to talk about there's an additional article that we'd like you guys to vote on that you don't have in front of you, but we want to bring up. So if you remember back on some earlier versions of the budget, before we started having to make the cuts because of COVID, there was an additional capital article that the schools wanted to buy a sped van, a sped vehicle, transportation vehicle. So as part of our balancing the budget, they agreed that they could fund that within their regular operating budget and not through a separate capital article. So we took it off, off our capital list, off of our use of free cash, and we just moved on. So we don't have any separate article for it because it's just going to be funded within their budget. But one thing I didn't think about was how they might want to procure that. So when we sent the warrant over for the school department to review, Jane Hackett talked about how they'd like to do potentially a lease purchase for that. So while the money is covered within their budget to pay for it, we need to add an article because the Municipal Modernization Act, just like we did with the IT for the phone system, same exact thing, even though the money's covered within the IT budget, you need a separate town meeting vote that authorizes a lease purchase. So I don't have the language for you, but it's going to be very straightforward. You don't need it for purposes of a vote. But I would, we had the selectmen open and close the warrant last night and vote this, which again would just be authorizing, it would be an article that's going to authorize a lease purchase for the school department for a sped van which is funded within their operating budget, which all the numbers you've already seen above. Hopefully that makes sense. And it probably won't physically be in this part of the warrant. We'll probably do it at the very end so we don't have to renumber everything, but I just thought I'd mention it now since we were just looking at a school, lease payment for a vehicle.
Are we
I'm
going to
good.
get a chance to listen to the school committee and how they're going to restructure their budget under the new constraints?
I'm sure if you asked them, they'd be happy to come in. The last time I met with Dr. Cron, he's literally, I think he said he's preparing 3 or 4 different scenarios to try to, depending on what the rules are going to be. So I don't think he even knows yet
Yeah.
exactly how it's going to look, but maybe later in the
Yeah.
summer, if you ask him, I'm sure he'd be happy to.
Yeah,
Okay.
Julie, I was on a call with Dr. Cron, and just to give you an example of how up in the air things are, the state hasn't given them guidance on how they can do busing.
Ugh.
So if they require 6 feet of separation and busing, and you can only put 1 kid on a seat, you could end up having to put on twice as many buses on the road. So again, they're waiting for the guidance from the state on what they're going to be required to do. Now, there are other levers they can pull. For example, they could look at, what busing they provide and alter that, right? So if they have to have twice as many buses, but then they bus half as many kids, then it kind of all washes, right? It all comes out to be about the same. But there's a lot to consider in there. So yeah, the school budget is, I want to say that it's definitely on point for this town meeting, but I think that there's going to be stresses and strains put on the school, and we don't know what the school's going to get for funding with relative to COVID-19 either. Well, so
Like it's all in a state of flux.
yeah, not to speak for them, but it could be they have to do a whole bunch of stuff, but they could get a lot of funding to do it, and if they get all of that, then doing all the stuff that they have to do could amount to a whole bunch of nothing, right? But they could have to do things that cost money that they don't have money to pay for, and they're going to have to, find it elsewhere in their budget, or they're going to have to make adjustants. So it's a tense situation, but that's the reality,
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Some of these things, like on Article 21, we've got
I'm sorry, John.
7,700. We've got the Capital Plan Committee. Sounds like the Capital Plan Committee voted on it. So that's fine. I guess that's fine.
But John, before you go on, would you mind just, I was hoping you guys could vote on that authorization for the lease purchase for the sped van for the school.
You have the language for that, Doug, at all?
I don't have the language, but it's literally going to be just that's all it's going to say is, authorize the school department to enter into a lease purchase for a sped van. I mean, that's literally all.
Not something that's going to be required to be on the capital plan. What's the dollar value?
No, Capital had already approved it.
I thought so.
Yeah, they had already approved it. And what we're doing is rather than
This is
putting it
just
through
just
undesignated fund, we're just moving it over.
Right.
And it's the same language as we have for the telephone lease.
It's just, in my opinion, it's a really silly part of state law that it's crazy that, we can vote a $60-something million budget, but yet you have to have a separate vote to say, I want to do like a lease for this thing. I mean, we have the money for it. We're appropriating the money for it, but they just require a separate vote to authorize a lease purchase, just like we're doing for the IT phone system. So that's all the language.
All right. All right. So I'll just, what's the total dollar amount, or do you know? Or there is no dollar amount assigned to it?
No dollar amount. It's coming from their budget. It's within the budgeted line items.
Okay.
Because again, this article is not appropriating any money. It's just authorizing a lease purchase. That's all it is. As Biz said, the appropriation for it is in the budget.
All right. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the authorization of the school department to enter into a lease purchase agreement for a special needs van out of their budget. I have a motion by Bobby.
I'll second it.
A second by Bill. All in favor?
That'll be for 2 vans,
Aye.
please.
And that would be for 2 vans.
Yes, please.
Oh, it's a 2.
Yes, two.
Is that what we approved on the capital plan? 2 or
Yes.
1?
It was 14,000 for 2.
Oh, okay.
Yep, so it is
I
2.
don't have paperwork in
14,000.
front of me. Thanks, Biz.
Yeah,
All right,
okay.
I still got my motion in there.
Okay.
So it's for 2 vans.
It's
Bobby
a
is reviving his motion and Bill is reviving his second. All in favor?
Bill,
Aye.
Which Bill?
That would be Bill
Aye.
Principe, I believe, right?
Principe?
Okay.
Thank you all
Frank
very much.
abstains.
I'm sorry for having like a last minute ad like that. You know, it's not the way we like to roll, but it's just a lot of changes that
No
we're trying to
problem.
react to.
Yeah. If Doug, if you didn't hear that, Bobby said, let's not let that happen again. And he said he's not kidding. You said you're not kidding, right, Bob? Oh, geez, I'm sorry. We gotta go back to the replay. All right, so.
Did we get a
let me
final
see.
vote on that?
We did get a final vote on
All
that.
right, everything okay.
We did? Okay.
Yes. All right, so Article 22, 11,000 dump truck. 23 is 57,000. We fund the school department lease agreements that are listed below. And it's like 5th year of a special education van, 4th year of a transit wheelchair, 3rd year of a transit special education van, and 5th year of a special ed van. I love seeing the fact that we took what used to be 4 articles before and we've made it 1. So nice job. We got the approval to do the Boyd telephone service for the IT department, 300,000 for the water and sewer department for a sewer system evaluation study, 60,000 for 11 pump stations and 2 ejection stations, comprehensive study of them, 30,000 for comprehensive assessment of the wastewater treatment plant. 28 has nothing to do with us because discharge of liquids onto sidewalk, public roadways. 29. Fingerprinting applicants for certain licenses. Okay, it doesn't sound like it's. All right, Article 30. Submitted by, oh, this was submitted by police chief, that previous one, Article 29. Fingerprinting applicants for certain licenses. And it has to do with fees and defining some pawn dealers, hackney drivers, food truck vendors, ice cream truck vendors, etc. Okay. Article 30, town administrator, elimination of 1-year probation. That's in the town administrator. Is that a change to the
This is a change to the charter.
charter?
Yeah, these are like what they're calling like the low hanging fruit kind of phase 1 charter review amendments.
Okay, so eliminated the 1-year probation for new town administrators. Modification of the termination provision in Article 31 for the town administrator. Assistant town administrator. Okay, this is setting a new position in the charter for the assistant town administrator. Board of assessors, again, these are, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these because these are submitted by the Charter Review Committee, but they're not financially impacting. There's a youth commission, one from the Charter Review Committee. Property tax exempt for Gold Star parents, submitted by the veterans agent. Gold Star families again. Is this one?
I believe we might need to have the Finance Committee approved because it does have some financial implications. So just in case we need to add it, if you can just approve it.
This is Article 35. This is property tax exemption for Gold Star parents.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'd like the motion.
Okay, I have a motion to accept the Article 35 property tax exemption for Gold Star parents.
I'll second it.
I have a second from Bill Stewart. Oh, no, that was Craig. Second from Craig. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Hey, Biz, or
Yes.
I'm just curious, has anybody tried to calculate approximately what kind of dollar value that might be in lost tax revenues?
Yes, the assessor's office took a intense look at it, and it's roughly, it's limited to, I think, 2. There's a limit on how many can get it in any year. So it's about
Oh, yeah.
$8,000.
So by
And
limiting the
then-
number of people, yeah.
Yeah, it's limited. And then the second one, which is Article 36, also is limited, but it's $1,500 for the VALA Act, and that's up to, I can't see how many people. That's a limited number of people as well. So between the two of them, I think it's limited to roughly $10,000, $15,000 at the most.
In one of them, there was a reimbursement, wasn't there, for part of it?
No,
No? Okay.
no. What it is it works like the VALA Act will work like the senior work. So the senior work off, you work, you put in so many hours, and then you'll get a reduction in your taxes. So that's how that works.
So the Valor Act is to volunteer to provide 25 hours of service to the town of Rockland. In exchange, volunteer services, towns shall reduce the real property tax obligations of that veteran on the veteran's tax bills, and that
Right.
reduction shall be in addition to the exemption or abatement that the person is otherwise
Right.
entitled to.
And there'll be
So-
there will be a minor change in this, just to state where it says the $1,500 reduction would in turn be applied for within the same fiscal year. We have to make sure it's done within the calendar year so that the taxes are impacted on their December bill. And this is one of the language things that Doug has on his corrections, just so you're aware of it.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve Article 36 as amended and presented by Biz.
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Motion by Joe.
A second.
I have a second by Lori.
Mhm.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
And then
Didn't see-
there's one more called the Brave Act.
Okay, the Article 37 is the Brave Act,
Mhm.
and we didn't vote on this one either?
I don't remember your voting on them. I know that you read them, etc. But I have noted that it was submitted but because it does have a financial impact, we just want to make sure that you say yes to this so that if the town council questions it, we can say, yes, they did vote it last night.
Okay, so Article 37 is an additional Brave Act, and this is provides for a property tax exemption for any real estate that is the domicile of a person but is owned by trustee, conservator, or fiduciary for the person's benefit if the real estate would be eligible for exemption under clause 22nd A, 22nd B, blah, blah, blah. The purpose of this article is to provide real estate property tax relief in the form of an exemption to veterans who have already been eligible for such exemption under the clauses mentioned above, even if the veteran had conveyed the property to a trust. So this is like, again, a retired person moves the property to a trust, and because the trust actually owns the property, they want to make sure that the veteran is not, prevented from getting access to benefits they would otherwise be entitled to. So Article 37 for the Brave Act, I'll entertain a motion to approve that.
I'll make a motion.
Motion to move.
Okay, I got a motion by Bobby and I had a second from Craig.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Got a thumbs up too. This one. All right, moving on, Article 38. We've got community preservation projects.
Yeah.
This is to approve the revenue that's coming in.
What it is they have to go ahead and send out their reserves each year.
And they have to-
10% estimates based on the estimated revenue. It's just, this is pretty standard with a CPA.
Right, okay.
You just
Yeah,
need
no,
to
I
vote-
remember
you
this
need to
article.
vote to
This is,
Put it in the buckets.
Mhm,
Right.
correct.
okay. And we already voted on that one. Article 39 is Rockland Memorial Library for $169,000 from community preservation.
Yep.
63,000 from CPA open space.
Mhm,
23,000. Again, we voted on these.
mhm.
I don't see that Article 41 lists that. I don't see that it shows the approval from the town, from the finance committee. I know
We're going to check on the technicality of that. Because it's CPA, the town does have the charter request or charter information that the FinCom vote on all these. So this will be gone over tomorrow as well with legal.
okay, so if we need a vote on this, we'll add it, and then
You
the
had
moderator will make
you'd already voted them. I just didn't put the language in yet.
Right.
All right, yeah, I think.
You guys already voted all these.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
I thought we had voted them all,
Mhm.
and the last time we checked on this, I thought that council had recommended that finance continue to vote these, and that they should be on there, that we, because it ultimately it's taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, we did vote on all of them.
Is that the same with capital planning too, right?
Capital planning doesn't have to do CPA, but they did vote.
Yeah, we weren't sure. We couldn't get a definitive answer on that, so we did it anyway.
Correct.
Okay.
Plan, yeah.
All right, so that's the CPA, 289,000 for the McKinley School, the system, 29,000. Although Bobby said, what did you say you're gonna do it for 50,000 for that sprinkler system, Bob?
Good luck.
Gonna underbid them.
We'll just make it a not to exceed.
All right, 6,300 for some floor electrical work in the Grand Army of the Republic Hall.
Oh, yeah.
29,000 for the historic preservation, 175,000 for parcel. Article 46, 38,000 for open space reserve. ADA compliant park. Okay. 47, 104,000 to install automated passive crosswalk signals. 85,000 for Rockland Rising Rental Assistance Program. We talked about this, and we talked about this on the last call, but did we vote on this, Article 48? Okay, all right.
Yep, you voted.
I know. Yep. Okay. All right, 49 is the overlay. That's what Doug was talking about. So we'll see how that kind of shakes out.
The floodplain zoning, is that what you're looking at? Yeah, so like I said, my preference is going to be that it'll stay in the warrant, but just don't be surprised if we end up either passing all these zoning over, or indefinitely postponing them.
Good. All right, more zoning. This is the fun part of the meeting because we get to sit back and relax. More zoning. I'm really not going to read this. If this is making anybody sick, just look away. It's okay. All right. 75,000. Capital projects and repairs. And we did vote on this one as 53,000 for.
What happened to it?
You guys can't see my screen, or can you?
Yeah,
Yes.
you went past what we were talking about.
The 75,000. We did vote on this one, Article 52. This was for the, in combination with the matching grant for capital projects and repairs. It was voted by the Capital Planning Committee and the Finance Committee.
Mhm.
All right.
Right, you can use that to do the next one.
I believe that's the case, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. This is about bonds. We did vote this one, Article 54.
John, can I make one comment about Article 54?
Yep.
No, yeah, you were there. So this is one that I'm having a little back and forth with our bond counsel on this. So this is just allowing us to apply premiums from bonds to go toward those costs. And it's like this in every town and all throughout the state. Bond counsel is really finicky about how it's worded. So just so you know, even though I believe I copied every single word that you see here exactly as they want it, they might want like a separate motion to also be read. So you don't need to vote anything differently. But we may end up like John Eller, the town treasurer, may likely get up and read a motion that will look virtually identical to the words you see written in this article. But you might just hear that done a little bit differently, and that's solely because of bond counsel. They want things the way they want them.
Now, Article 54, I don't see any approval from us.
The reason being is that, I mean, you voted all these previously. However, there's no value involved with this because it's subject to change. The value change. It's just making sure that we can actually use the premiums to apply the cost to the cost of the bonds and the notes.
Right. It's like an authorization. We're not like
Right.
appropriating a dollar amount, which
Correct.
is a traditional finance committee vote.
And again, I believe you had already voted it.
Okay. Citizens petition,
We don't vote.
let's see what that is. And that is the end of the warrant. Okay. Anything else housekeeping wise we have to do, Biz?
No, that should cover everything. We were just, throwing it out to you. So if you had questions, we could address them. And I think we're good.
All right. Anyone else, just open round table. Anyone else have anything that they wanted to go over?
Well,
Questions?
hopefully it'll be a short town meeting. I mean, we did it in an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, I read
That'd be
every word.
nice.
Amen.
No.
Can I make one comment to that? It's interesting on the call I was on the webinar earlier today that one of the other gentlemen on the finance committee also heard. They talked about how some moderators are going to try to do like some consent votes where they just combine either multiple articles into one consent vote just to get the town meeting as quickly as possible. And that probably won't be necessary in Rockland because Kevin Henderson does a good job of keeping things moving.
Yeah.
It's just
He
interesting,
does.
that there is that ability, for example, maybe instead of going line by line, you just, you vote the budget in one fell swoop. But it was just interesting. We'll see what happens.
Do we, just a quick question on where these things are posted.
Second, Bob.
Are these
Bob, 1
outside
second.
so that everybody can see them?
Yeah. So
Like
what
the
yeah,
public library is not open?
Right. So what we're going to do is it's obviously going to be posted online on the town website, and we're going to have hard copies available outside of town hall, and most likely we'll also have hard copies available outside of the senior center because people are not working at the library. We probably won't have hard copies available, but at every location that you see listed here, all the restaurants that are closed, the library, there'll be a little bit of a different posting that'll say, you can go to the town website to download it, or you can call the town administrator's office at Rockland Town Hall and make an arrangement to go to town hall and pick up a hard copy if you'd like. So
When do you think it'll be ready?
Monday, it'll be ready Monday.
Mhm.
All right, Bob had a question. Go ahead, Bob.
Trucks out in front of the tennis court.
Why are there trucks in front of the tennis court?
Company. It's like
I'm sorry. that
In
was a
what
question.
store?
So Bob lives near the tennis courts, and he
Oh.
said that there are 9 trucks in front of the tennis courts with their booms up.
All I could think of maybe is that there's like a geotechnical, a sampling engineering being done as part of the school building construction project. Because I know they're doing a lot of the design work on that. So maybe there's something related to that. I have no idea. I'm not up there right now.
Bobby's gonna take a walk and ask him. We text us later.
Bobby's,
What happened?
Are they used trucks or are they construction trucks?
Bobby's on the prowl. It's ABC Construction something. I don't know.
ABC. Sounds like a scam to me.
There you go. There you go. Problem solved, I hope. All right.
What do you say?
He said they're using him for, they're playing some kind of a war game or something, Bob. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Let's see. Exactly. Don't worry about it. All right. Anyway, I just wanted to, so one other, a couple of quick things. Just a reminder again, Bobby, Joe, Dan, I appreciate you offering to renew. I can send one email that you all plan to renew and you'll make yourselves available at the town meeting if that's okay with you guys. I'll just send one email to Kevin.
Yeah, I have to tell him, I think myself and Doug Wall will have to renew on the capital planning, and on finance committee here, we got to consider, does anybody on the finance committee want to join capital planning as the second, take Ken's place?
Good opportunity.
We meet less frequently than finance for sure.
Right. And people don't talk as much as I do, so that helps.
It's
All right.
it's just as laid back as this, if not more so.
Okay. Well, we'll take some. Hopefully,
He's
at some
jumping
point
at
we'll
it.
get back together. We may have to nominate or something like that. We'll figure it out. But
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
yeah,
We're hurting
and then-
members. I'm only asking because we're still down 2 members.
Yeah, and I would say in general, we need members on the finance committee. I'd like to keep us around 12. Right now, we're down to 10.
Yeah.
Need a couple more members. So if people know people that they'd like to recommend, certainly get that information to Kevin Henderson or get it to me and I'll get it to Kevin. I just need like a name and a phone number if somebody's interested. And you all went through the process. It's pretty straightforward.
I mean, if you meet somebody that sounds too intimidated by the finance committee to join and help out,
right.
explain to them the capital planning is financial oriented, and it's a good step in the door for somebody who wants to volunteer compared to the
Right.
finance committee.
I agree. So capital planning would be a great
So if you have
step.
somebody who's hesitant, push them towards the capital planning.
There you go. All right, so that's my spiel on that. I'll get off my soapbook. Just a reminder, our next meeting is technically at town meeting. That is June 22nd. Am I correct on that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And then in July, our meeting will be on July 8th, okay? So if nothing else, Julie will probably handle minutes maybe at the next, whatever.
Yeah, do you want me, I have the minutes done from the last one. Do you want me to email it out to everybody when I'm done with
Yep.
them?
Yeah, you can email them out to everyone
Yeah.
and we'll take it up at the next time we have a meeting to kind of approve them, okay?
Okay, that'd be fine.
There you go. You got it, Bob. All right, thanks, everyone. I appreciate it. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. I have a second. I have a second by Lori.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Doug. Thanks, Bill.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Bye, stay healthy, everybody.
Thanks.
Stay safe.
All right, bye.
Mhm.